This is the strange story of a man named Jonathan who allegedly built a disturbing business by stealing human remains and selling them online. The story begins in Pennsylvania, where Jonathan, around 31 years old, was living and trying to pursue his passion for music. He was part of a heavy metal band and spent much of his time writing songs and working on music projects. But there was a problem. Jonathan was constantly broke. To survive, he worked at a warehouse and often had to take double shifts just to cover his basic bills. After paying rent and expenses, he barely had any money left to support his band, travel, or produce music videos. Everything changed in 2023 when Jonathan met a man named JP. JP allegedly introduced him to a very unusual way to make money. According to him, there was a niche market where people bought and sold human body parts, things like skulls, bones, hearts, and even brains, through black market collectors. These items, JP claimed, could be resold for a lot of money because there were collectors willing to pay for them. When Jonathan learned about this, he became fascinated with the idea. He wanted to enter the same business and become his own boss. But there was one major problem. This type of trade required startup capital, and Jonathan had none. So he came up with a shocking plan. Instead of buying human remains to resell, he decided he would simply steal them. Jonathan targeted a large historic cemetery not far from where he lived. According to reports, security at the cemetery wasn't particularly strong, which made it an easy target. One night, he sneaked inside carrying a crowbar. Rather than digging up graves with a shovel, which would take hours, Jonathan focused on above-ground mausoleums. These structures required no digging. By prying open the stone or marble slabs, he could directly access the remains inside. That night, he forced open a few mausoleums, collected bones and other remains, and left the cemetery with his haul. The plan had worked. Realizing he needed better equipment, Jonathan went to a local hardware store and shoplifted tools, including a headlamp, gloves, and a metal cutting wheel. On another night, he returned to the cemetery and broke into an underground vault, stealing even more bones and body parts. During another visit, he opened a crypt and had to rappel nearly 10 feet down to reach the remains inside. Each time he returned home, he stored the stolen human remains in the basement of the house he was renting. Once he had collected enough bones, Jonathan began selling them online. Here's the surprising part. In the state of Pennsylvania, buying and selling human remains is not actually illegal. It appears to be one of those areas lawmakers never clearly addressed. Because of this legal loophole, Jonathan openly advertised himself online as a collector and seller of human bones. He posted photos of real human skulls on his Instagram and even joined a Facebook group called Human Bones and Skull Selling Group, where members traded and sold skeletal remains. People were apparently buying them. While exact numbers are unclear, reports suggest that a full human skeleton can sell on the black market for as much as $7,000. As time passed, selling bones online became Jonathan's entire persona. His social media accounts filled with photos of skulls and images of himself posing with them. In one Instagram post, he claimed he was living alone in the mountains, riding a Harley and slinging skulls. In reality, he was simply renting a house in a residential neighborhood. It seemed he was trying to build an edgy online identity, almost like a dark influencer. Meanwhile, he continued returning to the cemetery again and again. Eventually, he began breaking into family-owned mausoleums, taking entire families' remains. He also targeted extremely old tombs. In one case, he stole the bones of a woman who had died in 1869, more than 150 years earlier. Because selling remains wasn't illegal in Pennsylvania, it appeared he could continue operating openly. Years passed. By 2025, Jonathan had allegedly stolen remains from more than 100 individuals. These bones were stored in the basement of his home and in a rented storage unit.
Around this time, two of Jonathan's family members visited his house. For reasons unknown, he decided to show them the collection of human remains he had stored in the basement. The sight horrified them. Although they didn't immediately report him to police, they spoke about it with others. Eventually, one of those people contacted authorities and reported that Jonathan might be keeping human bones in his basement. Police began investigating. They looked at his social media and saw the many photos of skulls he had posted online. Then they tracked his phone records and vehicle movements, which showed that he had visited the same local cemetery multiple times. Investigators now suspected he had been robbing graves. While selling human remains may not be illegal in Pennsylvania, grave robbing definitely is. Police decided they needed to catch him in the act. One night, officers staked out the cemetery. Eventually, they spotted Jonathan returning to his car carrying a burlap bag filled with bones, as if it were just another routine trip. They approached him immediately. Jonathan reportedly confessed on the spot, admitting that he had stolen the bones and sold them online. He was arrested, and police later searched both his home and his storage unit. Inside, they discovered more than 100 full or partial sets of human skeletal remains. However, despite the confession and the discovery of the bones, Jonathan has not yet been convicted because the case has not gone to trial. For now, everything remains alleged.